It was a crazy day around baseball yesterday with all the trades and everything else that happened yesterday. And then we had the Dodgers and Cubs last night in what could easily be a preview of a big postseason series in the National League. And let me show you what happened on the north side of Chicago. Bottom of one, Cubs are down 3-0, but here comes Seiya Suzuki. Seiya says see ya with a 2-run shot to left, and the Cubs cut the deficit to 1. Bottom of 2, it's still 3-2 LA. This is Kevin Alcantara at the plate in the seats. 2-run shot deep left, his first career home run. Cubs take a 4-3 lead, and they're not done. Bottom of 3, Carson Kelly with a man aboard. That's a towering shot over the ivy. Cubs take a 6-3 lead, and they would win it by a score of 10-5. Dodgers drop their 4th in a row. That ties their season worst losing streak. Meanwhile, the Cubs are tied with the Red Sox for the 6th shortest odds to win the World Series. Dodgers remain overwhelming favorites at plus 160. Despite their struggles of late, they more than make up for it with the acquisition, of course, over the weekend. Buster Olney is back with us from his spectacular backdrop with the very busy deadline, and we talked earlier this morning about some of the moves that were made. How should fans in Chicago feel about the Cubs? Have they set themselves up to be a legitimate threat to beat the Dodgers in the National League?
Greeny, they should be excited because the Cubs went out in this marketplace that was flush with starting pitching, and they got 2 of the best available starting pitchers, guys you can envision starting Game 1 and Game 2 in a playoff series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kevin Gausman, they got from the Toronto Blue Jays, who faced the Dodgers in last year's World Series, and yesterday adding Clay Holmes from the New York Mets. He's someone who broke his fibula earlier in the year, but he's come back. He looks great in his minor league rehabilitation appearances. Along with that great group of position players, this is a dangerous team, and I do think the biggest threat to the Dodgers in the National League. Now,
Dodgers obviously are the rich, and they got a lot richer before this deadline, acquiring the ace, Tarik Skubal, from Detroit. He will pitch at Wrigley Field tonight. He was asked about all of the backlash that has come from this trade yesterday. Here's what he said.
Every team could trade for me. Every team could make that acquisition. And I don't really sympathize with people that blame the Dodgers for anything they've done. They've developed a really good organization. They draft well. They acquire talent really well. They retain talent. It's a winning organization.
So that is one way of looking at it. Any team in baseball could have traded for him, especially when you consider what the Tigers got in return. The other way of looking at it is maybe no other team, or certainly few other teams, could give up as much as they gave up for a player who was essentially a 2-month rental, and then we go from there. So what has been the reaction you've heard? I've heard from outside of the sport. Fans are enraged. What's the reaction you've heard inside the sport, Buster, to the trade?
It reminds me of the reaction to that Yankee team, the last team to win 3 straight World Series when they won 125 games in 1998 and then traded for Roger Clemens the following spring, with fans feeling like, look, it's inevitable. But I can tell you that in baseball, among players, they don't feel that way. I talked to a number of All-Stars at the All-Star game and asked them the question, what's it going to take to beat the Dodgers? And they point back to the World Series last year. Toronto Blue Jays, who came within 1 run. They came within 2 outs of beating that great Dodger team in the World Series. And yes, this Dodger team is so stacked with starting pitching, but they do have questions, right? Both of their catchers are hurt right now. Mookie Betts has not had a good year. Kyle Tucker has not had a good year. And it's baseball in a short series, especially when you get the type of starting pitching that it looks like the Cubs got. They can be beaten.
That's the point. I mean, you and I were on the air, on the radio, when I was doing Mike and Mike, when the Yankees got Alex Rodriguez, and the world thought it was, the world should just stop spinning on its axis. It's totally unfair, all the rest of that. And they wound up winning a combined total of 1 World Series the entire time that he was there. And the reality is it's because of this. In baseball, all of that money that Mark Walter has, you can probably buy a division, because over the course of 162 games, you can put together a team that cannot be beat. But with the added layer of playoffs, added layers, I guess, of playoffs in baseball, it injects a randomness into the ultimate champion that never existed before. So you can't buy that, right, Buster? The worst team in baseball could beat the Dodgers on a given week, and that's the difference in that sport versus the others.
Right. They're carrying a 4-game losing streak into tonight's game. 2 years ago, they almost lost a series to the San Diego Padres. They felt vulnerable to losing to the Phillies in last year's playoffs, and then they were this close to losing to the Blue Jays in the World Series. That's how the opposing players are going to feel about what's going to happen in October.
Okay, and again, because of those just joining us at the top of the hour, yes, that is the most spectacularly scenic backdrop that anyone has ever done a live shot on in the history of the show. He's in Stonington, Connecticut. I think that's Fisher's Island behind you, which is one of the great golf destinations in the entire world, just to tie it back together with our conversation with Jeff. Outstanding, Robert Stanberry, Olney. We'll check in with you soon. Thank you, Buster.